Mehdi Ballouchy will take charge of the New York City Football Club when they play at Montreal tomorrow. We'll have that, other MLS news, Club World Cup, Gold Cup, Martinez versus Freeze. It's all coming up on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And we're back live. Great to have you with us. I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. We're going to be bringing you the radio commentary after this long break, as New York City will be at Montreal, Stade Saputo, tomorrow night. But Roberto, we really have to, at the top of this, we just found out yesterday morning, and then it was announced a little bit later in the day at the presser, that Pascal Janssen is tending to some personal matters in Europe. So he's there. That means Mehdi Ballouchy, next in command, will take charge of his first professional soccer match for the New York City Football Club. So it's, I suppose, inopportune might be one way you look at it. But if it's a real coaching team, then things should be just fine. And Mehdi, he's ready to be a head coach anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think everything is going to be fine. I don't think the team is really going to miss a step. Plus, from the way we understand everything, it looks like Pascal is going to be very, very much in charge, although remotely. So we'll see how that is able to go.
Well, in the and I'll play this clip. It was after you asked a question in the presser yesterday in just a moment, but I'm beyond curious as to how, look, I understand the communication during the week in training because Mehdi has taken training all week too. It appears that way. It sounds to me like Pascal probably went home during the break like some of the other players did during that mandatory 5-day break. So we don't really know specifics as to how long he's been gone, what exactly he's missed. I always remember Dome Taron for like 2 weeks before he arrived. He was communicating with Rob Vartugian, and they were doing the best they could, sending him practice, and then he would help break it down. I would assume that's the same way it's going. But game day, see the game day stuff I'm curious about. Halftime, of course, your notes, what you want to say, what adjustments you want to make. But during the course of the game, I'll be interested to know how that happens.
Yeah, so am I. I'm very interested. Also, how they're going to handle lineup changes because I asked Mehdi about it, how much of the input of his own style and his own things are going to be in this. And it just seemed, and maybe I'm wrong, is that, Pascal is going to have, a say on everything that winds up happening. So the only thing that I'm really curious about is if the team, or rather, is Pascal going to be able to get like a live feed, or is he going to have to rely on the Apple feed, which is 90 seconds behind everything?
I'm sure they'll manage a live feed somehow, have a drone flying over Saputo or something. Well, here's Mehdi yesterday when it was addressed about him taking charge, his team tomorrow.
So Pascal is in charge of the whole week. We were in touch every day. He's able to watch the sessions. We're in video calls with the whole coaching staff. So the preparation is no different than what we've been doing. And there's nothing that is me making anything that is different than what I've been doing. So I'm doing the same exact job I've been doing since Pascal was here, and that will continue when Pascal is back. No, Pascal will be involved. We'll be in touch with the whole coaching staff again, and we'll go through the game, preparing the way we've been preparing before. And with today's technology, Pascal can be, as involved as, he wants to be and can be remotely.
There it is. Now I'm going to take issue a little bit because this is the way, you have to approach it that everything's going to be the same, because that's the message you want to resonate with your team. But I've experienced one person down on my coaching staff. Well, it's worked both ways. I've been missing an assistant once along the way, and then due to my only red card in competition over the years, I missed a game. And I also missed like the last 30 minutes of a game because of this red card. I was arguing a call, or a non-call, as it were.
Arguing?
But listen,
no.
But listen, it was. But what happens is everybody on game day, in particular, everybody has their own responsibility. They're responsible. Somebody might be. We know Vartugian is on the set pieces. We see the subs come in. That's his job. Everybody there's a digital component and an analytic component. Everyone has their own role and responsibility on game day. With Pascal away and not there in the technical area, it does change. So I'm not saying they can't make the adjustment. I'm not, this is extra hours probably spent, figuring this all out. So I'm not suggesting it won't work or it can't work or it's still not an effective approach, but everything's not the same.
And it can't be. And there's got to be, you would think that Pascal would have to, give the reins, right, to Mehdi to be able to manage the game while he's there. Yes, Pascal is away. I don't know how involved again he's going to be able to be, but I think you would get a different feeling being on the bench, watching the players, watching their body language, which you may not get off a television feed, and seeing different things that you say, all right, we need to make a change here. Now maybe Mehdi runs it by Pascal and says, I think it's time to take X off and put Y on. Yeah. Right. And do that. And Pascal says, all right, fine. So maybe they'll be doing that. But
those are the same.
It almost made it seem that he's taking orders from afar, when I think it's more of a collaborative. Maybe it's just my misunderstanding, but I think it's more of a collaborative thing where Mehdi is going to give him his opinion on what he's seeing right now, and then Pascal is going to say yes, no, or something.
Yeah, but and again, we don't know the exact relationship between those two during the course of a game when they're both there in person. But it probably isn't much different than, that's what you do. You're the manager, you're the head coach. You listen to all the different sources of opinions and suggestions on whether it's substitutions, what it might be. And then you take it in and then you make the final decision. So in that way, it doesn't change too much. It's just, but you're right. The eye of the beholder, in this case, Pascal, just watching it on a monitor versus being there and able to see the entire outfit, that's where it really changes. So that's where you're relying on your assistants maybe a little bit more as to define that. So pretty interesting. Now we've
also if he has to watch the Apple feed, we really don't know what he's going to watch, or if they can get a direct feed. Being 90 seconds behind can be substantial, because that's really the difference between the Apple feed and and what's happening on the field. It's about 90 seconds.
Well, hopefully they'll disclose all this, at some point. And we don't have any information as to what's going on in Pascal's life. We
have zero.
We think, and hope for all the best as to whatever might be happening in his life that has kept him back home. Well, Europe, we haven't been told it's Holland or, where he might be. So hopefully all's good. The only thing we have heard is that there's an expectation that he will be back in time for the Toronto match, which is Thursday at Yankee Stadium. So we'll see. One more thing with Mehdi, before we depart, the fact he's taking over as the head coach. I think it was Chris Campbell, and forgive me if it was someone else in the presser, and maybe it was you, that asked him whether he's thought about, the moment, where he's finally, his goal is to be a head coach on the professional level, and now he's getting his moment. So here's what he said.
Good question. To be honest, I haven't put a lot of thought into that. I think maybe post game I can reflect and see what I get out of it as a coach, as a human being. But I've kind of been on task, and it's about doing the task in hand and from one thing to the other, and making sure that the preparation is right, making sure that the staff is right, making sure that the group is right. So I haven't had time to reflect on that, but I think that's something that maybe post game I could look back and see what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's right. Post game.
Yeah, it's great. I'm happy for him. Right, it's got to be fun to be able to go and do that first time, and it's sad that it comes up in a situation like this. And again, you expressed it, and I just want to say the same thing, that we hope that everything is fine, and with Pascal's family, and that he's back here for the Toronto game, and everything is okay. So we wish him absolutely well on all of this, and we wish Mehdi well on making his debut.
Yeah. Well, it didn't go so well at Yankee Stadium on May the 10th, and that's when Montreal, their 10th game, got their first win of the year, and it was against New York City. 1-0 was the final, and it was and it's at Yankee Stadium, where New York City's had this spectacular record over the years. So against a team that they've traditionally been dominant against as well. So all these different things met, and now you go to Montreal. So part of the reason we surmised that they were doing so poorly at the beginning of the year is that everything was on the road because they couldn't use the Olympic Stadium up there. And there's no way you can play in February and parts of March, in Montreal. It's still frosty.
But Glenn, we got to remember that New York City's now has lost 2 in a row against Montreal, because at the end of last season, New York City lost 2-0. And that's the first time that New York City has ever lost to Montreal in Montreal. Now, they have lost to Montreal when New York City was on the road, but Montreal was playing a home game. I think it was at Red Bull Arena. And New York City lost there. But they had never lost in Stade Saputo, and then they wound up losing 2-0 at the end of the season last year. And then they lose 1-0 this year. And that's only one of 2 victories that Montreal has had all season long. They have 11 points. They're horrific.
Including none at home. So they're on the road the whole first however many games of the season. And then they finally get 7 home games, and they haven't won a home game yet.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's working probably against New York City. I mean, you got all these things clashing and meeting. But Montreal, if you go and watch the Cincinnati game, they're not a good team. I mean, that's the shame of this, is that they weren't a good team when New York City met them. And as Pascal clearly stated, it was a very, very, very poor performance by New York City that day. It wasn't that long ago. So that was that. Now, Monsef Bakrar, you asked him yesterday, as Bakrar's coming off a couple of good games for New York City, and he's going to be the starting striker tomorrow because Alonso Martinez is still away. We'll talk about Alonso and Matt Freese in a little bit. But here's Bakrar talking about, your question was the central defenders for Montreal. Does he have any specific considerations in trying to penetrate them?
Oof.
Well, that's what you do in soccer. Go ahead, Jimmy. Roll it.
Yeah, actually, I've watched both of them. We have we know what we have to do with this type of defenders, and and even if they lost the last game, doesn't mean it's gonna be easy for us. We know this opponent is always they have up and down, and even as you remember when they play here, they did pretty well. So we have to put more focus on this game, because we have something to pay for it, because we lost the last game here at home against them. So we have to take the 3 points from them there, and
So you're looking at this a little bit as a revenge game in a way?
Yeah, you can say that. It's for us. It's something that we didn't play well here. We could do much more better, but it happens, with the games. But now we know all the players know what we are waiting for, and we have to be ready for the game.
That's Monsef Bakrar. The last time New York City won there, Roberto, you'll remember, was 2023. So the New York City Football Club, on their social channels, they've put pictures of this goal. It's Mattias Pellegrini, his only goal as a member of New York City, but it was an incredible scissor kick goal. And it was a 1-0 win up there in 2023. So that's the last time New York City's won up there. So we'll see.
Right. So as far as Montreal is concerned, defensively, they've been pretty horrid. Right. They've allowed 11 goals in their last 4 games. They actually won one of those 4 games in Houston, of all places. They won 3-1 there, but they've allowed 11 goals in their last 4. And then just like playing at home and just in general, they've been just horrific, aside from the fact that they haven't won a game. They've also been a sieve defensively. So New York City, who played a poor game against Montreal at home, now gets a chance to right the ship. They not only have New York City lost the last 2 games to Montreal, they've been shut out the last 2 games. So for New York City fans, you hope that they get to see the New York City that smoked Atlanta in the second half of their 4-0 victory at Yankee Stadium. First half wasn't that great. Second half, definitely much better.
Now, getting shut out has not been unusual for New York City FC this year. I'm counting 5. I wasn't 6. So 6 times they've suffered 6 or 7. I'm just trying to count along on the that they've actually been unable to score a goal. That's out of 18 games. So that's that we know, and we've iterated what a struggle that's been. You've also iterated the 4-0 win over Atlanta United, where Atlanta just played a pretty good first half, couldn't get the goal, and then the New York City went crazy. Hannes Wolf getting his brace. And you said you talked to Mehdi Ballouchy a little bit about Hannes Wolf?
Yeah, and we were just talking about it, what the difference is. And he just feels that, it's confidence, a confidence that, the fact that he, you get 1 goal and then, things start happening. And so now he's got, 2 goal games in a row for New York City. So, and then he's got 3 braces, as the young kids like to say, so far this season. 2 of them against Atlanta, which I think is pretty amusing. And, he's starting, maybe to find a rhythm and find his way of playing. And the one thing that you and I have talked about, and he's not hesitating anymore. He's being much more aggressive. And I think that the goal, I don't know if it was the first or the second one he scored, where he's coming down the left side and he cuts back on the defender and then he shoots. I think that in an earlier iteration of Hannes Wolf, he probably takes a second touch a little bit more to the right to try to get a better angle and to try to get the perfect shot and to try to shoot it there. But this time he just made a quick move and bang. He got it off so quickly that Guzan could not react in time, and that's why he got it by him. And so we're starting to see a lot more of that, and it comes with confidence, and it comes with confidence in himself. And, I'm sure that whatever the instructions that he's been receiving from the coaching staff and probably also looking at film and seeing what he's doing, I'm sure it's been reiterated. Now he's starting to be more aggressive and not trying to overthink certain things or try to get the perfect shot. And I think this has really helped him.
Yeah. No, that goal you described was really, and that part of the quick release that you described was, I thought was the very important part of it. Whether it was a lack of hesitation because he's more confident, didn't take the extra touch to get a better angle. The fact that he released it so quickly with his right foot, his non-dominant foot, and put it perfectly into the corner. So it's working, and it's obviously highly necessary for New York City that Hannes Wolf contributes, and he's tied with Alonso Martinez now for the team lead. One note about Montreal, a guy who started the last game will not be in the midfield. He's a pretty important player, Nathan Saliba, who has been signed by Anderlecht. So he's going to be in Belgium shortly. I'm sure he's already there.
Yeah.
And so, they have to do some manipulation in the midfield as well.
He's got 1 goal this season for them, but he's contributed in other ways as well. He's one of their best players, and now he's gone.
Yeah. He's
they've got a lot of guys we're missing.
He's not an attacking midfielder, though. He's a midfielder. He's not going to score a lot of goals, or he's just like he's a solid player. And I wanted to mention Ilinic, Slovenia 21s, not so good. 1 goal in their last 5 matches, including their last 3 in the qualifying group, which is what was played during this international break. No goals in their 3 group games during the break, and now they're last of the group. So I I actually don't know where this puts them as far as the possibility of qualifying for the this is for the European U21s, which would be huge.
Maybe somebody here who's watching is on top of that and can give us the information. I was looking, Glenn, back to Montreal. Okay, I mean they're in trouble as far as their roster is concerned because last Wednesday they had to play without Hennadai Sinchuk, Bryce Duke. Because they were injured. Giacomo Veroni sat out with an elbow injury. Fabian Ebers, he's got ankle problems. And then Saliba is now gone, right? Because, as you said, he went to Anderlecht. Joel Waterman is with the Canadian national team. Olger Escobar is with Guatemala. And that's a lot of players to be missing.
My favorite part of the injured list in their press notes is they put it in English and French. So cheville. So Fabian Herbers is out with a bad cheville, the ankle. And then there's what were the other ones? Bryce Duke, Bas du corps, and that's the lower body that we love so much out of the description of these injury reports. So.
Yeah, but the one guy they still have to worry about in New York City is Prince Osei Owusu, who scored the winning goal against New York City the last time that they played. And although this is a team that, is last in the league in goals scored with 16, they only need one to win if they play, shutout soccer.
Well, he scored a brace in that Houston Dynamo win for them, which was interesting that they got that 3-0 win. And then at home against, pardon?
I believe it was 3-1, wasn't it?
Okay.
Maybe. I'm sorry.
They scored 3 goals, which was
right. The important part.
Probably it might have been more goals than they've scored at any point this season. Let's see if we run through it very quickly. They've conceded 6 in one game. They've conceded 4 in one game, and that is the first time they've scored 3. And it was 3-1 the final. And Owusu scored 2 minutes apart in the first half. His brace, but he also scored against Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati took the 3-0 lead at Stade Saputo in that midweek game. And Cincinnati wins at 3-1, but Owusu scored in the 90th minute, a thunderous header. I think he is, and I've got Patrick Ajamang to just bring up here briefly, but Owusu is a handful, Roberto. And so he's a guy that can change the game if New York City can't manage to score the 2 or 3 goals that they should against Montreal. Sorry. 2 or 3 goals that they should.
I agree.
Of Montreal. So if they don't, and Owusu gets 2 chances and it puts 2 in the back of the net, then now you're losing 2-1 to Montreal when it maybe should never happen. So we'll see.
I fully get that. I mean, Montreal has won 1 game in their last 8, and again, that was the one in Houston. So I mean, this is a game. And Matty Lawrence put something today in our little group chat about the next games that New York City has. And he made, I thought, a really salient point. Although the fact that these games are going to be played on the road for the most part, the next games that New York City plays are against Montreal, who's 15th in the division. TFC's 14th. Charlotte is 9th. Orlando is 5th. Sporting Kansas City is 12th in the West. And FC Dallas is 10th. And all of those games, except for the Toronto game, are going to be on the road. All the rest, that's the only one.
That's the point.
And then, but New York City's got to get some wins out of all of that. You got to win those games. And New York City only has 1 victory on the road so far, and that was a 1-0 win in Toronto on a Alonso Martinez penalty kick.
Well, this is something we brought up, I believe, during our preseason shows, or at least very early in the season, looking ahead at the schedule and saying this stretch right here is going to be critical as to their placement in the Eastern Conference and where it all falls out. So, like you said, 5 of the next 6 on the road, the 1 win in 8 road games. Montreal no wins in 7 home games. So we're not sure exactly how that will play out. Montreal, one of only 2 teams in MLS that hasn't won at home, and the other is the LA Galaxy. So there you go.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's as crazy as it gets. So I wanted to bring up Ajamong because Patrick Ajamong, the Charlotte forward, who's been playing for the U.S. men's national team, I would imagine he'll likely start in the Gold Cup on Sunday against Costa Rica, and the rumor confirmed that this is a legit rumor that he's going to Derby County. Now, Fabrizio Romano put it out as a probability, so that usually means it's happening, or at least it could happen, and things fall through at times, and that's what happens. But that is legit. But he's getting a lot of flack for his national team performances, and because he's a bit awkward, back to the goal. Sometimes his first touch is poor. All these different, doesn't keep the ball well enough. When there aren't good numbers around him. I would bet, Roberto, this is my opinion. I would bet that if you asked every central defender in MLS, who is the one guy you do not want to go up against on Saturday night, whether you're home or away, and I bet you we'd be in the 80 to 90 percentile of Patrick Ajamong. I mean, 100%. He is unbelievable.
You've got to deal with him like people had to deal with Shaq. And going to like a basketball reference. He's right. 6'7". He's 6'7", and he is, although sometimes he looks a little bit clumsy, he's pretty agile, and he's got a very quick first step. And by the way, he puts the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. And it's sort of, when you were talking about the criticism, it drummed up memories from, Giorgio Chinaglia of when he played with the Cosmos over here. And people would criticize him all the time. Oh, he's not a great center forward. He can't play with his back to goal. He can't do this. All he does is score goals. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's okay. If that's all he does, I'm fine.
Yeah, he doesn't defend. All right, well, what the heck? He scores 4 goals. He doesn't.
Not everybody can be Messi, for crying out loud. Yeah. All he does is score goals. Yeah, that's a description.
So he's got to continue to develop if he wants to play in the World Cup. And, that's the thing, because once these injured players come back, it'll be interesting to see how Mauricio Pochettino.
I think right now, the way I look at it, I got to look at him as number 3 or number 2. And I still, to me, I put Ricardo Pepi as number 1, right? Before he got injured. And if he can come back to the same way that he was playing in PSV, then I don't think you can keep him out of that position. I think that Balogun, who was not a full-time starter with his club team, and sort of lost his position on the U.S. national team, and he's hurt, right, as well. So, but I think he's number 2, and then you see where Ayman is, and if Ayman, can continue playing the way he's playing and he stays healthy, let's see what happens if he does go to Derby County, whatever. Then, we'll see what's there. But then, there are other guys who are there as well, who are also chomping at the bit. You got Brian White, you got Damian Downs, who is, he's going to be playing in the Bundesliga next year, Cologne coming up from Bundesliga 2. So it's going to be very interesting fight to the finish. And the sad thing is that there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to be able to show what you can do, because the U.S. only has exhibition games left before the World Cup next year. And I don't even know how many those are. They're not a lot. I think there might be something like 6 or 8 games, after the Gold Cup left for the team.
Yeah. Well, it's during our kicking it around, we'll get into the U.S. men and the Gold Cup a little bit more, along with the Club World Cup. I just wanted to make a couple of more points here, and I think you'll find some humor in something I'm going to play for you, Roberto. But MLS scheduled during the international break, so there were a lot of comments. The one that led the way was Sandro Schwartz for the New York Red Bulls, because there was this midweek game. All right, so let's go back to when the June 12th games ended. All players were, and this is an MLS Players Association agreement in the collective bargaining agreement, 5 mandatory days off. So it was mandatory. Goodbye. And of course, a lot of players are flying all over the world, right? I mean, you have a lot of international players in the league, or they might live in, who knows, if you're in New York, maybe they live in California, so they're flying out there. Nonetheless, Sandro Schwartz, his point was midweek game after this mandatory 5-day break, it only gave teams 4 days to prepare, both physically, mentally, and then not just both, and then also add tactically for their opponent. So here's what he said, Sandro Schwartz, quote, "Everyone knows that you need good preparation, but the rule of 5 days off during breaks is not possible." Well, it's possible. It's happening. This is not the best idea. We are not allowed to control the guys during this break. Not allowed to control the guys during this break. What are they doing? We don't know. And then they directly have to be ready in the middle of the season. Come on. This is unbelievable. Then he said, normally you need 10 days or 2 weeks for the next game after a long break like this. And that's what
after a 5-day break, you need you need 2 weeks to prepare
your body. That's a long, Roberto, when athletes just all of a sudden shut down, and that's close to a week, it takes a long time to get it back.
Okay. Can I ask you something?
Just to finish his quote,
okay.
He said, "We lost 2 players. This is unbelievable." And the players he lost were Lewis Morgan and Raheem Edwards, who are right now are very important players for the Red Bulls. But go ahead.
So, I mean, you've got 5 days off, right? You've got 5 days off to do what you want. And I'm sure that between coaches talking to the players and players respecting their profession, wanting to keep their jobs, meaning starting whatever, right? Or their position on the bench or whatever position they are. I am sure that most of these players, took the time to make sure that they stayed in good physical condition. They didn't just hit Mickey D's, go to the beach,
I don't think that's
party
what he's
to
talking
5
about.
in the morning and had beers all night long.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he's talking about. I think he's talking about,
But when you tell me that you get a 5-day break, you need 2 weeks to get back into it?
10 days.
I'm sorry I can't buy it. Sorry, Glenn, I can't buy it.
Well, let's poll every one of the MLS coaches, and I would guarantee you that this midweek game pissed them off. How about who's the supporter shield leader? Bradley
Philadelphia.
Carnell. Bradley Carnell. He wasn't happy, and they were fine. I mean, they
By
won
the
their
way,
match.
what did they do?
What do you
They
mean?
did
What
what
they
they
do?
always did.
What's that?
What did they do? They did what they always did. They won.
Okay, but that's not the point. He's making the point after winning and being top of the MLS table. So I think those are the strongest. Those are the strongest points when somebody actually is still successful, despite maybe a lack of preparation, proper preparation. If you're a coach, that's the way you look at this thing. Anyway, but
Let me make one last point to this.
Well,
Let me make one last
make
point.
it after this. Make it
No,
after
no. Wait.
No, this supports your
before it's
point.
fresh.
This
I
supports-
just want
all
to
right,
say
go ahead.
this.
Go ahead.
I just want to say this. If you have professional players, and I don't mean they're getting paid, right? I'm talking about guys who take their profession seriously, okay? They're taking a 5-day break. I would hope that they're professional enough to know what their responsibility is, knowing that especially that they're coming back, I'm playing on a Wednesday, all right? And if you don't, sorry, then that's on who brought them in, and that's on you as a coach.
So what do you expect them to do as far as to keep physically and toned the way you need to be to step
Go to
into
the
a competition?
freaking gym every day. God.
Okay, great. So you go to a gym every day between the end of the season until preseason. Do you think that gets you ready?
No. I'm just talking about this. Don't take this out of context. My context is only the fact that they said it takes. I thought you said 2 weeks, but 10 days. 10 days of training to get off of 5 days of being off. Come on, they're not just. I mean, they shouldn't be just off.
They shouldn't be playing a midweek game after a mandatory 5-day break, whether it's 10 days.
That's a different ball game.
But Mehdi Ballouchy, the new head coach for New York City FC for at least one game, this is what he had to say about the break.
I think the break, to be honest with you, is really important for the players. I think it's a good idea to implement a 5-day break for them because I think the reality of the league and the travel is very hectic, and that's probably around the 6 month line where the break was. And what you see, interesting, what you see afterwards is a lot of energetic people. So the guys have been back, refreshed, training really well, and getting prepared for the game.
Oh.
Now, it's a little easier for him to say that since he didn't have a midweek game. You know what I mean? I mean, let's face it. Let's face it. All right. So
I like Mehdi even more than now that he fully supports my position. Thank you.
now, all this talk about MLS and doing things during the FIFA international break, I just happen to be going through some archives because I'm actually involved in a project where I'm just trying to find different things. And I ran across, you're going to love this. I ran across this from Dome Turan. And here's what he had to say during a particular tough time for New York City with the FIFA international break. Dome?
FIFA days, but MLS prefer to play the competition. It's strange, this league for me. We play 3 in a row in 7 days. After that, we stop the league 2 weeks. After that, we have again 3 in a row in 7 days. And after that, we stop 3 weeks. If you think about that, is the balanced league, okay, I accept, but I don't understand anything right now.
I love it.
Oh,
Dome, by the way, got Monterrey into the knockout round. The only Mexican team to make it into the knockout round, and the only 2 teams from CONCACAF to make it into the knockout round, along with Inter Miami. So very, very a nice start for Dome. Seriously, I mean, when I look at what he's done, it's really hard to take over a team and to get them to play at that level. I mean, it takes time. Look how long it took Ronnie Dyler to get his first win. We've seen a lot of coaches taking over teams, and it takes, time to be able to get their ideas across and trust the players and see what they can actually do and change formation, do all. And Dome just right away, bang, 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 and you're into the knockout round.
that's
It's
fantastic.
great. I sent you. Did you watch the video that I sent last night?
No, I was on a red eye. It
Oh
wasn't
my
coming across.
God! There's this video. I wish I'd shared it here. It's the play-by-play in Spanish of Monterrey winning the game 4-0, and it's like the last minutes. It's like just before they score the 4th goal, and the announcers for these games, most of them are stationed and out of Televisa in Mexico. That's where they're doing all these games from on the zone. On the Spanish side, I have no idea what they're doing on the English side, but I presume they're mostly down in Florida, but who knows where they are. And he is like almost crying on the air with emotion, excitement, pride. His heart is coming out of his chest with what Monterrey is doing and about to accomplish and the whole thing. It's great. It's just great. It's way over the top, but it's great.
No, it's fun. It's fun. And and
if
it's
you
the
guys
club.
go find it someplace, please go watch it. I think I shared it. I don't know. I share a lot of stuff. So if I haven't shared it, then go look at my Instagram or look
Yeah, put it
at
out.
my Twitter. If not, I'll try to find it and reshare it again. It's amazing.
All right, well, let's talk about the Club World Cup as we kick it around. How about it?
All right, we need.
Well, you mentioned Inter Miami. They're playing PSG. This is an extraordinary matchup, really, in the Club World Cup, as we're in the round of 16 now. Lionel Messi against his former team. Miami has, they've been impressive compared to what we might have expected based on their form going into the event, right, Roberto? I mean, it was
What didn't they not win in 6?
or what, or
Big-
1 in 7, or yes,
Yeah, they were in big trouble. But look, they tied Palmeiras 2-2. They beat Porto 2-1, and Porto, that loss cost them the chance to advance to the next round. So when Porto arrived in the middle of the night at the airport in Portugal, their fans were waiting there, and we're talking about, I don't know if it was 2 a.m, 3 a.m, or whatever, but their fans were waiting there, just there to stone the bus. There are consequences to losing in some places that are a little bit more than they are here.
Yeah. Well, I was rooting for them. They were training over here at Rutgers University, but they didn't
help them.
It did not help. How about this for Bayern Munich? Because of that they finished second behind Benfica. I think this is great. Here's their route to the final. All right. The probable route, probable quarterfinal PSG if they beat Miami, semifinal Real Madrid if they beat Juventus, and then the final Man City. So those are the potential games for Bayern Munich, all because they finished second. So there's always, there are consequences if you don't win your group, man.
Absolutely, and especially after winning the first game 10-0. Now, my favorite result in this whole tournament, was the team from Australia. What is it, Auckland?
Auckland.
Yeah, and they get smoked by Bayern 10-0. And I had heard that there was like some conversation before the game, and that the Auckland coach had hoped and was rewarded, if you want to use it that way, that Bayern use their number one team. And they went out because that's what they wanted, that they took them seriously. They took them with respect. And so they were thankful for that. And I get that. And then they lose to Benfica 6-0. They were trailing only 1-0 at the half. So Boca Junior fans were drooling at the bit, at the chance of being able to show both those teams that they could do even better than that. And not only that, Boca needed to win, and needed to win by a sizable margin because of the fact that goal differential was in play here. So they needed to win by a lot, and they needed a result to help them. And so they needed Benfica to lose to Bayern Munich, which they didn't, right? They that game went Benfica's way. What was it? I don't know if they tied or they beat them, but it didn't go. But Boca Juniors, despite the fact that they outshot them 41-3, despite the fact that they outshot them 10 shots to 2 on goal, despite the fact that they hit 3 on the woodwork, tied 1-1, and Boca was eliminated from the tournament. Now, as far as Auckland is concerned, they did not need a plane to fly home. And I love that they were able to finish the tournament after those first 2 results, to be able to get a tie against a legendary team in world soccer, and being able to wear that with pride on the way home. They're going to feel like they won the freaking tournament just by that result.
The guy who scored the goal, he's 28 years old, Christian Gray, and he's a school teacher in New Zealand. So there's a great post on social media, and I'm sorry I didn't clip that because it was unbelievable. He arrived, and the entire student body surrounded him on the stairwell to go down towards his classroom. They just surprised him. And it's just this joyous moment. And so you're absolutely right if you look at the celebrations when they scored against Boca Juniors. So Boca and River, no Argentinian teams in the round of 16, which is unfortunate from a supporter standpoint because they had the best groups.
They did. Boca. Did you see the one where the Boca fans were in Nashville and they went into one of these music joints, and they just took over the place, and the band is just sitting there going, well, we can't play, and the drummer is like, all right, screw this, and he just starts playing along with the fans. It's just great. And I was like, Nashville has never seen anything like this. And no, Boca fans, and I'm not a Boca fan, mind you, okay? I support River in Argentina. Dale, Gallina. But Boca fans just showed out in this tournament. Yeah. As far as the way that they support their team, okay, they are absolutely fabulous. The support is insane. The things that they did to get to the tournament. River Plate players as well, fans as well. Some of them sold cars, some of them left jobs. They did all this crazy stuff just to be able to be here and to be able to support their team.
Well, that clip that went viral of Yeah, the guy sold his car and was getting a divorce, or I don't know.
I'll deal with that later. So the point I'm trying to make is, I hope that we get the good parts of that sort of fandom here in the United States and in Canada for MLS, that people have that sort of passion without doing all the crazy, dumb stuff and fighting and that sort of thing, and the violence that sometimes accompanies that we can leave to the side, that we can leave out. We don't need that. But we just hope that we're able to get that sort of passion for our teams and also especially for the U.S. national team.
Here, a friend of mine, Chris Brady, wrote to me regarding he was at the Inter Miami Palmeiras match, 60,000. But as he put it, only the Brazilians were making any noise. So that there's 4 Brazilian teams, and they contributed and have contributed and will continue to contribute. But he writes, if they sort this competition out, it will turn into the Global Champions League and will kill the European Super League forever. Interesting take.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I'd kill the Super League. Don't care about Super League. I don't want the Super League. I do want Champions League. But instead of every 4 years, I would almost say let's do this every other year. I'm loving the tournament. I know that it hasn't been the best attended. Some games, yes. Some games, no, and all that. But I'm loving the soccer. I'm just loving, the teams have taken it seriously. They've gone all out. It's been extremely competitive. We've seen some fabulous games, and I want more. I want more.
The talked about the Argentinian teams being out. This week, Roberto, is the 39th anniversary of Diego Maradona versus England in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. And
I was there.
Okay. Well, you'll really enjoy this then, because in 2019, I interviewed, again, this is an archive I've been digging, and I wanted to share this because I thought you'd like it, and hopefully the audience would too. The director of the film, Asif Kapadia, who also directed Amy Winehouse, Ayrton Senna. He's an Emmy award-winning director for the Winehouse documentary. Anyway, he directed Diego Maradona for HBO. And so we brought up the film from a standpoint of Maradona scoring the hand of God goal and then the goal of the century within just a couple of minutes of each other. So here's Asif, and then you could show off your ball.
Spectacular slalom through what seemed like the entire England team, and then the other, the hand of God, the goal that would now be overruled by VAR. But do those two goals fit in kind of with the polarizing figure that he is, maybe a cheater on one hand there and just this unbelievable athlete?
Yeah, the whole saying we have here is that football's a game of two halves. Well, the film is really about the kind of double sides of Diego and Maradona. There's a good guy, and there's this other guy who's quite edgy, and the street guy. So there's the genius, and there's the cheat. There's a saint and the devil. Someone who's loved by millions of people and hated equally by other people. So the reason why he's interesting is he's very divisive. You don't have lots of people who are indifferent to Diego Maradona once they know his story and once they've come, across him. Really, the way to sum him up, his own biographer said to me, is if you take the 2 goals, if you want to sum up an entire career and a very long life, but you take the 2 goals against England, he scores 1 with his hand, and he scores 1 brilliant goal where he takes on the whole team, essentially, from his own half. That sums him up. And it's only 3 minutes apart. And essentially, one side of him is the street guy who will do whatever he has to do to survive, and he's very good at doing, at the handball in a way that nobody really saw it first time. I can tell you that actually, having done so much research on Diego Maradona, I've seen him do that 3 or 4 times now. Half the time he gets away with it, half the time he gets caught. So he's done that a lot. It wasn't a one-off.
So that was interesting. Yep, and there it is. And it's a great, if you haven't seen the movie, you can get it on Amazon Prime now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Hand of the Devil. That was the 2 sides of Diego Maradona.
It was. The funny thing was that I'm sitting next to Steve Goldberg, right, in Estadio Azteca, and the goal is scored after he punches it in. And Steve and I turned to each other, go, oh, well, that's a handball. And then you see Maradona running to the side, to the right side, and looking back at the referee, sort of like, did I get away with this? Did I get away with this? And then he is, and he's like the most surprised guy there. And then like everybody's like turning to each other in the press box going, that's a handball. And the only, 3 guys to miss it was the referee and the 2 linesmen.
And Asif Kapadia, because he said he didn't think it was a handball either, or didn't know. He couldn't tell from wherever he was sitting. So,
okay,
yeah, that's it. Depends on where you were, I think.
And Steve Goldberg, by the way, has it on film. He took a picture. He sent it to me a long time ago. I should have it someplace, but he sent it to me. And that was a crazy, crazy day. And then in the stands, there was so many fights. This was right after the Falklands War. And or Las Malvinas, depending on your point of view. And I spoke to one of the workers from the Red Cross after the game, and they said that they treated 53 people after the game, or during the game.
Yeah, incredible. Well, and especially to do all that at elevation, I thought that was a part of the remarkable nature of how that came about. And when I had been talking to Asif, when he mentioned that the goals were so close together, I had forgotten that.
Yeah, so did I. I actually, now it makes me think, yeah, absolutely.
That's the crazy part of it too. And but it really is an unbelievable. The reason I like the movie is because I knew very little about Maradona at Napoli, and it really has a focus on his years with Napoli, which was
100%.
He was there for 84, 74 through 81. So he was there a long time. He's a legendary figure.
And for somebody who was susceptible to outside influences, and my goodness, were the influences that he was susceptible in Napoli were just horrific, just absolutely horrific. And that was his downfall.
All right, Roberto, well, on to the Gold Cup. We've brought this up before, but there's the U.S. men's national team cruising through to the quarterfinals where they will meet Costa Rica. So as I posted on social media earlier today, you and I will discuss the possibility of Alonso Martinez taking a penalty against Matt Freese, teammates going against each other. I mean, that would be fantastic. I'm probably not for either one of them, but it's it would be a moment. Actually,
I hope it doesn't go to penalties. Let's get this done in 90 minutes. I'd be a hell of a lot.
Well, I know it might be a penalty kick during the run of play.
Well, that can happen. That can happen as well. But yeah, Matt Freese against Martinez. Now, so Matt Freese allowed his first goal in the last game, and it was not his best moment. Now, granted, Tim Ream didn't do him any favors by putting the ball back to him. But, it's funny because it sends me back to the goal in Atlanta that lost the game against Atlanta down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where New York City, just basically had to whack the ball out of bounds. And that was on Thiago Martins and not on Matt Freese. But this one was 100% on Matt Freese. And now there are 2 things. One, I want to see how Mauricio Pochettino handles this, and if he puts him right back in, which is exactly what I think he should do. And then 2, how Matt Freese recovers from this. Now, he made a very, very good save on a free kick, diving to his right, and that was not an easy save. And then he had another one that was shot right at him. And those are the only 2 other balls that he saw in that game. So now I need to see how he's going to react. Right, and
we already saw it. You already saw how he reacted.
No. You got to think about it. You got to put him in the next game. He's got to know that he's
No, I'm not saying don't put him in the next game. It's done. It was done because he played the rest of the match, and he was fun, like you said. And the thing about one of those saves is that no rebound. He covered up, and it was. I think he's over it, and Pochettino will start him.
I agree. I think he will.
But I'm going to explain why.
Here's the thing that happens, Glenn, and we see this a lot in hockey. All right, there's been so many great young goalies, okay, who come up and stop everything, and then they have a mistake or a bad week or something, and then they just never get over that, and it turns out to affect them for the rest of their career, and they're never the same. Now, I'm not saying that this is exactly what might happen to Matt Freese or anything like that, but the point is, we have to see how, he's got to sleep on it now. Now he's got to, it's the momentum from that game now dies down. The adrenaline from that game now dries down. It comes down. Now he's got to get himself psyched up now for Costa Rica. I want to see how he reacts. I want to see how he plays. I think there's a difference.
I'm glad you want to see it. I'm talking about Pochettino before you went into that diatribe, who has told the world that he's giving Matt Freese a chance to be the number one keeper. So there's no speculation as to whether he'll start that game or not. He will start that game. If he doesn't, Pochettino's got a lot to speak for. Seriously, because
I agree. I agree
them.
100%. I think that he should start, but I don't think there's anything that's givens that is 100% given. And it's an important tournament for Pochettino and for the U.S. national team. And he also has said that he's going to put the best team out there, to try to win games.
So put Matt Turner in, who
No,
obviously
I don't think that's the answer, but
you're having a difficult time letting me finish my thoughts tonight, Roberto Abramowitz, but you've
will
got a
let
lot
you
to
finish.
say. I know you've got a lot to say. So I'm going to be slightly sarcastic. Okay, so the best thing to do is put Matt Turner in, whose confidence level must be through the roof, that Mauricio Pochettino's not even playing him in the Gold Cup. So, of course, Turner's not going to play. You're not putting Chris Brady in. You've already said you're giving Freese a chance to be the number one. One mistake does not eliminate you from a position. Yeah, it'll be. I don't think there's this great interest as to how he's going to respond. He's already responded. The ball's been played back to him to his feet several times after that blunder was committed. I think he's okay. Plus, he's Matt Freese, who I think he's an introspective guy. Sometimes these Ivy League guys, it works against him. I don't see that working against the way he is. I think his personality carries him through. Now, do I think he's the number one keeper in the country? He should play in the World Cup next summer? I am not saying that. But he's being given the chance to show what he can do. He has hardly been tested. Let's face it. He's hardly been tested in the tournament thus far. So let's give him the Costa Rica game where maybe he won't be tested then. But somewhere along the line, somebody's going to, have a.
So if you say he's not number one, then all right. So rank your goalies for the U.S.
I don't have a ranking.
But you already said that you don't think he's number one. So you have some thoughts.
Well, I'm looking into the mind of the coach as well, who had Patrick Schulte and Zach Steffen rated ahead of Matt Freese unquestionably before they both went down injured. But that's part of what you do. You take advantage of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt Freese he's trying to be on the bus or the plane or wherever they're going, when the roster is named and they go out and start training and get into camp for the World Cup just to be one of the three keepers chosen. And
I think Matt Freese's mentality right now is to stay number one.
Well, sure. But
there's somebody just put something up. Misael, can you put that one up? The last one?
Herc Gomez thinks Freese is sixth.
Wow.
Well, who's he putting in? What do you got, Drake Callender or what?
I don't know. I mean, obviously he's putting Turner, Schulte, and Steffen. That would put him fourth.
Who else is in there?
Sean Johnson? Does he still put Sean Johnson ahead of him?
Nah. Well, he might. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. Besides, if you have the sixth.
Don't put Brad Guzan in there, man.
Let me see. That's wild.
Yeah, put up the other. He thinks Turner should start. All right, whatever. Well, who are all the guys? Who are they?
Yeah.
Drummer 69. Get us the other names, please. You got to make these claims. You got to have names.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure Misael is now on a search for the other guys.
So you talked about attendance in Club World Cup. How there's some crowds have been very good and then others have not. The Gold Cup, and this is from Paul Kennedy in Soccer America. They've averaged 19,306 fans for 16 dates during the group stage. That's down 32% from 2 years ago for 14 dates. And then the 3 U.S. men's national team games were down 57%, which I think gives you a pretty strong indication as to the where the level of love and passion for this team is right now in the States. Down 57%, Roberto.
It's two reasons. One, the results. This hasn't been a team that's been exciting people. Obviously, the Nations League didn't help in anything.
Right.
All this controversy with Pulisic being out, the fact that all this, so many of the starters are either with club teams or not here. So that's understandable. But one of the other major reasons is the freaking ticket prices. My God, how do you charge $90, right, as your cheapest ticket in San Jose and in Austin? I mean, what are we doing? Or maybe Austin, I think, was a little bit cheaper. But, they had what I thought was a decent crowd in Dallas. They had over 20,000 in Dallas. Except, the stadium holds 85,000, so it looks absurd. But they had 20,000. They had over 20,000 in Dallas, so that was a little bit encouraging. But yeah, still, I mean, you can't be putting these prices. And now that they're playing in Minnesota, but they're playing in the Vikings Stadium. They're not playing in Minnesota United Stadium.
Yeah.
So I know it's a doubleheader. I know Canada's playing too, but I'm hoping that they put more than half the tickets at like $25 or more. Fill the place up. Get a level of excitement. Make the place all the benefits you get from marketing in a place that sounds loud and exciting, like if Boca or River were playing. Jesus.
Yep.
Or Palmeiras.
Agreed. 100%.
Instead of hearing, 15 guys on the American Outlaws that they hang a microphone up near them, and all you hear is the 15 guys on TV, and you want to slit your wrist. Not to, it's not their fault. It's whoever's doing the audio. I prefer to hear the whole crowd than just listening to 15 guys yelling, trying to sing on the American Outlaws. Let me hear the rest of the 15,000 if that's how many they have.
Well, it's going to be a pretty fun weekend. MLS, Club World Cup, Gold Cup, and the U.S. men with Costa Rica on Sunday, and a bunch of games tomorrow, and in all these competitions. Of course, our game, Roberto, as we close, will be on the air at 7:15 p.m. Eastern on the New York City FC radio network, Spanish and English. And kickoff is at 7:40. And Matty Lawrence and I will have our pregame live, normal stream, 6:45, 45 minutes before. Well, I say kickoff 7:40. So I guess
I know.
55 minutes before. Whatever. It's listed as 7:30. It's always 7:40. Blah, 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 blah. But look forward to it. We haven't been doing this in a while, so we'll see how the club looks under. Look, it's a moment because Mehdi Ballouchy is taking charge. Pascal Janssen will be overseas directing to whatever level he can technically, but it's Mehdi's show tomorrow night.
3 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. That too. I wonder if he drinks espresso. Anyway.
I just want to mention that I've got Andres Perea as my guest, and there was a really fun chat with Andres, who also speaks about the Freeze versus Martinez matchup, and which way he's going on this. So that's a little tease. That's a little tease.
Which way he's going? Let me see. Well, I would think he'd go for Freeze because Pereira's got one cap for the U.S. men's national team, so he's actually an international, with the U.S.
Somebody's paying attention. That's good. Yes, he played with the U20s in Guadalajara.
No, he also has a cap with the senior team.
Yeah, he does.
Pereira.
But we'd love to see him back, and we'd love to see Keaton Parks get a chance. But I think it's going to be very, very tough with as few games that are remaining after the Gold Cup.
All right, boys and girls, and thanks for joining us, everybody. And we'll do it again next week. We've got a Thursday night game next week, so maybe we'll chime in on Wednesday night. We'll let you know, though, ahead of time so you can make plans. Yeah, I'm sure everybody puts this on their calendar.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Hey,
yes.
Listen, baby. We try to give you a week's notice so you know what you're doing. But so for Roberto, I'm Glenn. Thanks to Jimmy, our producer, and have a good night, everybody.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.